Hold up. Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step. I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Double M Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host,
Puma El Gato.
What do we got going on tonight, my man?
Vergil Ortiz is suing Goldenboy Promotions. Let's talk about it.
You know, unfortunately for Oscar, this is one too many names that unfortunately have come out and basically said that they want out of their Goldenboy contract. It gives the impression that Oscar's just not taking care of his people. And it kind of sucks for Oscar because if you guys go back, depending on how long you've been watching boxing, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you go back, Oscar sued to get out of his contract with Bob Arum. And the whole point of starting Goldenboy Promotions was he was saying, look, I've been a boxer. I know what it's like. I need to get out there and create a promotion that's going to take care of the fighters from a fighter's perspective. And unfortunately for Oscar, I think he's kind of become the thing that he didn't want to be, the thing that he ran away from. We all know all the names. Canelo Alvarez sued to get out of his contract. Ryan Garcia, at least 2 or 3 times now, has tried to sue Oscar to get out of his contract, only for Oscar to bust out even more money to Ryan Garcia to keep him there. And now Vergil Ortiz. You know, these are all notable names, big names under the Goldenboy banner. So unfortunately for Oscar, man, it's just not a good look. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think if it was 1 or 2 people, 1 or 2 boxers, I could understand, maybe there's an issue. You're never going to have everybody fully compliant, fully in agreement with you with what you're doing, the way that you're, managing their career and such. But the reality of the circumstances is that this is 1 too many, especially amongst the bigger names. A different number of people are saying different things. Oscar himself isn't actually blaming Vergil Ortiz. In fact, he's saying, look, I know Vergil Ortiz, super nice guy, super humble. I know his father, super nice guy, super humble. He's actually blaming the attorney for Vergil Ortiz, which is funny because it's the exact same attorney that Canelo had. But besides the point, that's the things that Oscar's saying, this is the reason why we're having this contract dispute. But listen, man, when so many people are saying the exact same thing about you, or saying that you're kind of getting in the way of making my career even bigger and get into bigger heights than it currently is, you kind of got to believe it. When people are saying, hey, man, you're not giving me my fair share. You're doing underhanded tactics. You're doing, sneaky runarounds behind my contract to get what you want out of it. So all those types of things, at a certain point, you got to believe them. You got to believe them. Oscar, as a boxer, legendary, Hall of Fame, all that good stuff. But as an individual, he just doesn't seem to be on the up and up. And unfortunately for anybody under Oscar's banner, and unfortunately for Oscar as well, people are going to question if Goldenboy is really, the issue. But, it's funny because if you guys do remember, Tank actually wanted out of his contract with Floyd Mayweather. I believe Rolly too. Don't quote me on that one. So it just seems to be like once these fighters, which is funny because Mayweather also had to sue to get out of his contract with Bob Arum. But anyway, it just seems like when these dudes become, that guy, when they start up their own promotion, they become unfortunately the exact same thing that they didn't want to be. As far as Oscar, man, listen, again, this is 1 too many people saying the exact same thing about Oscar. So unfortunately, you can't just take it with a grain of salt. There has to be some level or some degree of truthfulness to it. And, whatever Vergil decides to do, whether he decides to stay with Goldenboy or go out on his own, hopefully he gets some sort of benefit to it, because I've always been an advocate for the boxers getting as much as they possibly can, the fighters in MMA getting as much as they possibly can, because at the end of the day, they're the ones taking the hits. They're the ones that are putting their body through hell to get to where they need to get to provide people with entertainment. So whatever the circumstances, I really hope that Vergil gets what he wants. Not a good look for Oscar, not a good look for Goldenboy. What do you think about that, my man?
Listen, man, it goes to show you that the situation has basically become dire for Goldenboy Promotions. Even if you look at the timeline and you look at the characters involved in wanting to get out of Goldenboy contracts, you kind of start to notice a little bit of a weird pattern. And again, there's a very reoccurring one. Again, maybe you can make an excuse for Canelo Alvarez wanting to get out of the Goldenboy contract and maybe saying maybe he was getting a little bit too big for his britches. Maybe he thought he was a way much bigger star than Goldenboy was letting on, and he was wanting to get out of his contract so that way he can pursue bigger fights. Maybe you can make the argument Canelo was getting big-headed. Fine, sure, let's throw Canelo Alvarez to the wayside. Ryan Garcia is probably one of the most destructive characters in boxing, maybe below Gervonta Tank Davis. But again, Ryan Garcia seems to be a very destructive person, a very big big-headed, ego-driven person, and him wanting to get out of the contract, again, kind of falls in line with that character. All right, fine. Let's throw him to the wayside. Jaime Munguia wanting to get out of his contract, even signing with Top Rank following his loss to Canelo Alvarez. And if you remember that build-up, Canelo Alvarez wasn't even talking smack about Jaime Munguia. What he was saying, though, is to Oscar regarding Jaime Munguia, are you paying him enough? To which Oscar was kind of sheepish about his response, being a little bit more defensive. And the fact that Jaime Munguia signed to Top Rank following the loss to Canelo is a little bit more of a coincidental timing than I would think. Now we have Vergil Ortiz, and by all accounts, even Oscar himself, saying Vergil Ortiz is humble, he's nice, I met his father, he's a good person. Cool. All of that. And he still wants to get out of your contract. And fine. Let's throw all these characters out of the situation. How stable is it that you, as a boxing promotion, have had Ryan Garcia, Canelo Alvarez, your next biggest star, Jaime Munguia, your other next biggest star, Vergil Ortiz, wanting to get out of your contracts? And again, you might be saying, okay, there's some internal stuff there. What does it say about your boxing promotion as a whole if every single one of your biggest stars want to get out of your contract? How stable are you as a boxing promotion if every single one of your four biggest boxing stars want to get out of your contracts? Whether it's internal, whether it's internal character, internal character things or whatever. What does that say as a boxing promotion if every single one of your biggest stars, one after one after one after one, want to get out? Whether or not you think Oscar is the root of all the problems, maybe there's more gears in at play. Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily speak to me as a boxing promotion, as an advertisement to other boxers wanting to sign with their promotions. If they squandered Canelo, if they were damn near squandering Ryan Garcia, if they're squandering Vergil Ortiz as a fighter, what does that speak to me about the stability of that promotion?
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I think, like I said, it's a bad look all around for Oscar and Goldenboy. There's really only, 4 or 5 big promoters. And when I say big promoters, I mean the ones that kind of, lead the pack, so to speak, as far as the boxing game. And one of them being as let's call it shady as it is, it's just not a good look, man. It's not a good look. And, the fact that people have Bob Arum, people have Eddie Hearn, they have all these additional individuals that they could go to. It spells a little bit of a bad taste or a bad look, bad future for that particular promotion. Because again, man, there is competition, sure, but again, Oscar and Floyd, 2 big stars, also sued Bob Arum to get out of their contract, and they felt the same way. Terrence Crawford, he is sued to get out of a contract with Bob Arum. There's just so many things here that unfortunately, you can point to say all these guys that are the promotions eventually, at some point when they see that these fighters become cash cows, they maybe start to take a little bit of advantage and not give them their fair share. So overall, man, it's just not a good look for Oscar. The amount of big talent that has accused Oscar of shady dealings, of misappropriation, of different types of things like that, it's not a good look, man. And unfortunately for Oscar, the more that pile up, the more that people are just going to point to every single example of these boxers saying, hey, look, man, Oscar's not a good businessman. Oscar goes behind our back. Oscar does this, Oscar does that. And again, one boxer, maybe you can dismiss it. 2, maybe you could dismiss it. When it's 3, 4, 5, hey, man, you kind of have to start to believe it. So we'll see how it goes, man. We'll keep you guys up to date. Definitely something interesting to keep their eye on, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not 100% sure where Vergil would go, man, as far as what promoter he would go with. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. And with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay.